In 2013, Americans marked the 150th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. The legendary speech was delivered after the Battle of Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle ever on U.S. soil.
Today, the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is a magnet not only for those interested in Civil War, but for people who believe in ghosts.
As VOA's Jerome Socolovsky reports, ghost hunting has become a business in Gettysburg. On assignment's Rebecca Ward caught up with Jerome to get the whole ghost story.
If ghosts exist anywhere in the U.S., Gettysburg is perhaps the right place to look for them. Locals say this house is haunted, and recently a group of people on a ghost hunters tour ventured inside with rather sophisticated gadgets.
I did not see a ghost or feel the presence of a ghost. I tried. I went around with one of these little laser pointer matrix flashlights and didn't see any anywhere.
But did anybody else on the tour or in any of the other visitors or even the guides say, oh, here's something?
Right. So there were about a dozen people on the tour, and quite a few of them said they felt presence.
Wow.
Charlie Souders thinks he heard a ghost.
Can you tell us what year it is?
A study by Baylor University in Texas estimates that 68% of Americans believe in the paranormal.
Nobody actually, as far as I could tell, saw a ghost, an apparition, but in one room, and I was there, they saw a chandelier swaying. Me being the rational person, I would explain that from having a dozen people walking on one of the upper floors of an old house.
Or just opening the door.
Now, one woman said she had never seen that chandelier sway.
I've been here about maybe a dozen times, and it's never, ever moved.
Well, why don't you describe to us where you were and kind of take us on the tour, how it began, how it ended.
Sure. The tour begins downtown. There's, I would call it a ghost tour row, where they have several businesses that offer these tours. This one was called an extreme ghost hunt, where they go with they have their paraphernalia, their equipment, and they go late at night up to midnight to several locations around Gettysburg. Obviously, it was a big battle. 7,000 people died. 11,000 missing, and tens of thousands wounded. So there are a lot of haunted places in the area. We went to a place called the Hoffman Mansion, which we were told was a casualty collection center, a place where they brought the wounded. They couldn't do much with them, so 80% of them died, and therefore that would be a place to look for ghosts.
And of course, before they died, some pretty horrific medicine back in the Civil War era, sawing off legs without any anesthesia, and yeah, I can imagine if there are ghosts, they would be there.
And for America as a country, that battle, it was the bloodiest battle on American soil. A lot of the bodies were lying out on the field for a long time. There were quick burials, so people weren't very deep in the ground, and bones would surface afterward for years afterward, apparently.
So you must have met some interesting people on this tour.
So we met a psychic medium who took us out to a field and was having elaborate conversations with people that she said she saw vividly out there.
James and Bartholomew and Bill and all the rest of you, I understand there are about 14 of you, give or take a few.
Author and psychic Lane Crosby claims she's talking with dead soldiers and says she doesn't need sophisticated equipment to do so.
They're just like us. They just don't have bodies anymore.
How many soldiers are with you here today?
Do you hear that?
So people are in a quest for a kind of certainty, and the more scientific or technological it seems, the better.
What did the theologian tell you about the type of personalities? I know you kind of touched on it, but there's so many people that believe in ghosts or believe in the possibility of ghosts.
She described it as a kind of subculture with its own gadgets. The more scientific, the better. With its own dress, and people seem to dress dark, and hats pulled down. Yeah.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
This is for capturing shadow figures. If something crosses in front, you see the shadow figure. You see what's creating the figure. It's an interesting little tool as well.
They even have a code of ethics, which I found to be interesting, that when they prepared people to go into these houses, they said it was very important to behave in a way so as not to disturb the spirits, not to be shouting and not to disturb the locations. So they even have their own kind of cosmology and this idea of the afterlife, what's going to happen then.
Jerome Socolovsky is VOA's religion reporter. Thank you so much for your reporting, Jerome.